Those are the people who need the ventilators. 2,000 patients have been discharged. That's up 528. So you have people coming into the hospital, getting treatment, and leaving the hospital. Most people who get the virus will never even go into the hospital in the first place, right? So we have to keep this in focus. 80% of the people who get the virus will what they call self-resolve. You'll feel ill, maybe you won't feel that ill, you'll think you have the flu, and you self-resolve. 80% of the people. 20% will go into a hospital. Some of them will get short-term treatment, and then they go home. A very small percent, and they tend to be older people, more vulnerable people, people with an underlying illness. This respiratory illness compounds the problem they have. They had a compromised immune system. They were fighting emphysema. They were battling cancer. And on top of that, they now get pneumonia, which is what this coronavirus is. That's the population that is most vulnerable. They then go on to a ventilator. Some percentage get off quickly, some percentage don't get off. The longer they're on, the higher the mortality rate. New York is still by far the most affected state, both in terms of number of cases and in terms of number of deaths. Why? Because we welcome people here from all over the globe. So travelers came here, people from China came here, people from Korea came here, people who were traveling around the country and stopped in China and stopped in South Korea and stopped in Italy came here. And because we are a very dense environment. You know, social distancing, stay 6 feet away, that's hard in New York City, right? Walk down the sidewalk and tell me that you can stay 6 feet away from someone. We're so dense, we're so together, which is what makes us special, gives us that New York energy, gives us that New York mojo. It also, that density, becomes the enemy in a situation like this. This is the total number of people who have been hospitalized, and we've been watching these numbers every day. We are now compiling the numbers, I think, in what's a smarter way. Before, we were getting individual patient data. Every hospital had to tell us about each individual patient, what their address was, where they came from, what the underlying illness was, and they had to put all that information together, which was very labor-intensive. So it was erratic the way the information would come in. Sometimes the hospital was just too busy to put all that information together, so they didn't send it in until the next day or the day after. This is a more uniform set of data. This is all the number of people in that the entire number of people in that hospital who have the COVID virus, without getting into all the specifics of individual names and individual circumstances. So it's easier for them to get us this data. And you see again the steady incline in the number. But, and this is good news, early on, you see that the number was doubling every 2.5 days. Then it was doubling every 3 days. Now it's doubling about every 4 days. It's still doubling, and that's still bad news because it still means you're moving up towards an apex, right? Because that number still goes up. But there is good news in that the rate of the increase is slowing. So they're two separate facts. The rate of the increase is slowing, but the number of cases are still going up, all right? And those 2 points are consistent, and that's what we're seeing. We want to see the rate slowing, and then we want to see the number of actual cases coming down or flattening. That's the flattening of the curve. But this is where we are today. Again, to keep it all in perspective, people don't know what to make of the coronavirus, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. Johns Hopkins has studied every coronavirus since China. 542,000 cases they've studied. Of all those cases, there have been 24,000 deaths. That's a lot of deaths, yes, but compared to 542,000 cases, it gives you a sense of the lethality of this disease. And if you look at the 24,000, they're going to be overwhelmingly older people, vulnerable people, people with underlying illnesses, etc. The amount of support that we have gotten from New Yorkers in the midst of this crisis is just extraordinary. I am a born and bred New Yorker. If you can't tell my Queens accent, I can tell your Bronx accent and your Brooklyn accent and your Manhattan accent and your Staten Island accent. But New Yorkers never cease to amaze me, how big their heart is. You know, they talk about how New Yorkers are tough. Yeah, you know, we're tough. To live in a place like this, you have to be tough. But as tough as we are is as loving as we are, and is as big as our heart is. And when someone needs something, there's no place I'd rather be than New York. And the number of people who are volunteering, who are coming forward, we put out a call for additional medical personnel because we have to staff all these additional beds. We put out a call, 62,000 volunteers. The number went up 10,000 in one day. How beautiful is that? These are people who are retired, who did their duty, who could just sit at home, but they are coming forward. Same thing, we asked for mental health professionals who could provide mental health services electronically, over the telephone, through Skype, etc. Many people are dealing with mental health issues. This is a stressful, taxing situation on everyone, and isolation at home. You are home, you're home alone, day after day after day. That is a stressful situation. You don't know what's going on, you're afraid to go out, you're isolated with your family. That's a stressful situation. Not that we don't love to be with our family, we all do. But that can create stress. And there's no place to go, there's no one to talk to about that. So this mental health service over the telephone is very, very important. I want to speak to the most important people in the room for a moment, who are the people who are responsible for this great construction behind me. First, I'd like to introduce General Patrick Murphy, who's to my left. General Murphy is tested, smart, and he is tested tough. I've been with the General for 9 years. I've seen him in hurricanes and Superstorm Sandy and floods and everything Mother Nature could throw at us. I've seen him in attempted terrorist attacks. There is no one better. He leads from the front. He knows what he's doing. And you could not have a better commander at this time than General Patrick Murphy, and I want you to know that. I want to congratulate the Army Corps of Engineers for what they did here. I used to be in the federal government. I worked with the Army Corps of Engineers all across the country. I worked with them on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, building housing. And one of the officers of the Army Corps of Engineers is still in service and reminded me of that. They are top shelf, and what they did here is top shelf. I want to thank the Javits staff, which has really stepped up. and I want to thank our National Guard because you are the best of us. You are the best of us. And whenever we call on you, you are there. And what you did in this facility in 1 week, creating a hospital, is just incredible. I don't know how you did it. Now, you did such a good job that I'm asking for 4 more from the president. That's the downside of being as good as you are at what you did. But what you did is really incredible. And I want to make 2 points to you. And I want to make 2 promises to you. This is a different beast that we're dealing with. This is an invisible beast. It is an insidious beast. This is not going to be a short deployment. This is not going to be that you go out there for a few days, we work hard, and we go home. This is going to be weeks and weeks and weeks. This is going to be a long day. And it's going to be a hard day, and it's going to be an ugly day, and it's going to be a sad day. This is a rescue mission that you're on. The mission is to save lives. That's what you're doing. The rescue mission is to save lives. And as hard as we work, we're not going to be able to save everyone. And what's even more cruel is this enemy doesn't attack the strongest of us. It attacks the weakest of us. It attacks our most vulnerable, which makes it even worse in many ways. Because these are the people that every instinct tells us we're supposed to protect. These are our parents and our grandparents. These are our aunts, our uncles. These are a relative who is sick. And every instinct says, protect them, help them, because they need us. And those are the exact people that this enemy attacks. Every time I've called out the National Guard, I've said the same thing to you. I promise you, I will not ask you to do anything that I will not do myself, and I'll never ask you to go anywhere that I won't go myself. And the same is true here. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this together. My second point is, you are living a moment in history. This is going to be one of those moments they're going to write about and they're going to talk about for generations. This is a moment that is going to change this nation. This is a moment that forges character, forges people, changes people, make them stronger, make them weaker, but this is a moment that will change character. And 10 years from now, you'll be talking about today to your children or your grandchildren, and you will shed a tear because you will remember the lives lost. And you'll remember the faces, and you'll remember the names, and you'll remember how hard we worked and that we still lost loved ones. And you'll shed a tear, and you should, because it will be sad. But you will also be proud. You'll be proud of what you did. You'll be proud that you showed up. You showed up when other people played it safe. You had the courage to show up, and you had the skill and the professionalism to make a difference and save lives. That's what you will have done. And at the end of the day, nobody can ask anything more from you. That is your duty, to do what you can when you can. And you will have shown skill and courage and talent. You'll be there with your mind, you'll be there with your heart, and you'll serve with honor. And that will give you pride, and you should be proud. I know that I am proud of you. And every time the National Guard has been called out, they have made every New Yorker proud. And I am proud to be with you yet again. And I'm proud to fight this fight with you. And I bring you thanks from all New Yorkers who are just so appreciative of the sacrifice that you are making, the skill that you're bringing, the talent that you're bringing, and you give many New Yorkers confidence. So I say, my friends, that we go out there today and we kick coronavirus ass. That's what I say. And we're going to save lives, and New York is going to thank you. God bless each and every one of you. The question was, for those of you who couldn't hear it, let me paraphrase it the way I want to paraphrase it, because I don't want to answer this question directly. When you've been doing what I've been doing long enough, you learn to just answer the question you want to answer. The facts, okay, Zach? Somebody said on one of the cable news shows, the ventilators that New York needed aren't even being deployed. They're in a stockpile. Yes, they're in a stockpile, because that's where they're supposed to be, because we don't need them yet. We need them for the Apex. The Apex isn't here, so we're gathering them in the stockpile, so when we need them, they will be there. We don't need them today because we're not at capacity today. That's why they're not deployed, because they're not needed. Second point, well, maybe you don't need 30,000. Well, look, I don't have a crystal ball. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But I don't operate here on opinion. I operate on facts and on data and on numbers and on projections. We have Cornell Weil, which is making projections. The CDC is making projections. McKinsey and Company are making projections for us. All the projections say you could have an Apex needing 140,000 beds and about 40,000 ventilators. Those are numbers, Zach. Not I feel, I think, I believe, I want to believe. Make the decisions based on the data and the science. And we're following the data and the science, and that's what the data and the science says. I hope we don't need 30,000 ventilators. I hope some natural weather change happens overnight and kills the virus globally. That's what I hope. But that's my hope. That's my emotion. That's my thought. The numbers say you may need 30,000. You will see, as these numbers increase, you'll see hospitals reaching capacity. You'll see, if the numbers continue to increase, hospitals over capacity. That's this whole planning exercise. That's why we just are building a 1,000-bed facility here. That's why we're building 3 other 1,000-bed facilities. That's why I'm asking the President for another 4,000-bed facility, because those hospitals will reach capacity. So to be alarmed well, the hospital is reaching capacity. Yeah, that's what we've been saying. That's what we've been planning for. That's why we're here.